Hey friends, welcome to the Upright Christian Parenting Podcast, Season 4, part of the Treehouse Storyteller family, and I'm your host, Hannah Pierrou. This is your place for upright parenting in today's sideways culture. We don't tiptoe around hard truths around here. We tackle cultural issues head on, build a bold biblical worldview, and equip you to lead your flock with courage. Our kids are being discipled by something, so let's make sure it's us. Grab your coffee, lace up your shoes, and let's raise kingdom arrows. Hey guys, welcome back to Upright Christian Parenting. We are in Nashville, Tennessee at the National Religious Broadcasters, and sitting down with me today, I have JP Gance, and I am so excited to talk to you all things family, ministry, marriage, all the
good
things.
Fun topics.
Yes.
Let's dig in.
Yes, totally. Nothing controversial ever there. No arguments or conflict whatsoever.
Super
Easy breezy conversation. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Well, we have 8 kids, my wife and I, 4 boys, 4 girls, ages 21 to 6. The 6-year-old runs the house.
Of course.
In case
Yeah,
you're
my
wondering.
6-year-old runs my house. I get it.
For sure. And we homeschool because, we didn't think our kids were going to be weird enough. So we're like, hey, what can we do?
You're too normal.
To increase this. So we did the homeschooling thing.
Yep.
And I used to work in the political and public policy world, came to DC, like a lot of people, to save America. So I was going to do it through politics.
Yep.
So you're welcome. I finished that.
Oh,
I was like, what else? What else can I do?
Thank you.
Yeah. So, but 17 years ago, God started to redirect my life, my wife's life. We had a family tragedy that hit us, and a close family member, a close family member's marriage failed, and failed in a way that was in an abusive marriage.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And we didn't know about it. And folks who know people who've been in abusive marriages know that they don't share it with their family members and loved ones.
No. It's usually a secret until it's too late.
Right. And so she had found herself in a shelter at that point and asked us to take in her 4 kids, 10, 11, 14, and 15. They showed up at the Quantico train station years ago, and we saw what happens when families fail in that kind of tragic way. And we ended up being a situation where we had to take permanent custody because of the situation.
Yeah.
And we God started to use that to redirect my heart on what I cared about most.
Yeah.
And it wasn't overnight. A few years later, I started to look at what was going on in the political world, what we were working on, realizing that very frequently politics is working to mitigate the effects of the collapse of the family, really. And I spoke to the chief of staff of Governor Doug Ducey some years ago, and he said, just sort of a back of the envelope estimate, said that he felt that 80% of Arizona's state spending was the result of the breakdown of the family. And we typically do it in 3 ways: through education, medication, and incarceration. And so I ended up leaving the public policy world with trying to figure out, what if we took a lot of the discipline that lives in the private sector and in the campaign world, baptize it, sanctify it, bring it into the service of the church, to see if we can improve the health of families, the health of churches. It started a big initiative that created Communio. We worked in several pilot cities. Jacksonville, Florida was one of them. Before we got going there, it was the 6th worst city in America for marriage, ranked by Men's Health magazine. The Huffington Post said I had an article that said this is one of the 10 cities where marriage goes to die.
Wow.
That's where we walked into. And within 3 years, we worked with 93 churches, moved 58,000. Those churches moved 58,012 people through 4 hours or longer relationship skills programming. We saturated the county with digital outreach, inviting people in that weren't otherwise there. The net was the divorce rate dropped 24%.
Oh my goodness.
Across the whole county in 3 years.
What an impact.
And we had some business guys that were skeptical that we had anything to do with it. Weren't donors and funders of our work. They funded an evaluation of what we did.
Yeah.
Dr. Brad Wilcox from UVA led that. And they concluded there was no other demographic explanation for the decline other than our intervention in the county.
Wow.
So we came out of that 2019 with the idea of let's try to scale this.
Yeah.
And originally it was all philanthropically paid for, and we're a nonprofit, but we had to try to scale it sustainably.
Yeah.
And so over the next few years, we developed systems to support individual churches where we take philanthropic capital, make our services really affordable for churches, combining that with kingdom capital to replicate. So we've now worked with well over 400 churches. We just signed a new a statewide agreement with the Texas Baptists, and have a great statewide partnership with the Arizona Mission Network and a number of states now where we've got big partnerships with big church networks.
Wow, that's incredible. There's so many statistics that I know you are well versed on, with fatherless homes or, breakdown of the nuclear family.
Yes.
Let's talk through that stuff a little bit from your perspective. I'd love to get your insight on, really like, why is the nuclear family under so much attack? Like really, really why?
Yes. Okay. So stepping back, I'm an ideas guy, right? So some of the worst parts of the Enlightenment, late 18th century, you have these ideas, radical ideas of reinventing and reimagining the family. Everyone's probably heard of this quote from Jean-Jacques Rousseau where he said, man is born free, yet everywhere he's in chains. He was not writing about the French monarchy principally or the state. He was really writing about the bonds and the responsibilities that come from marriage and family life.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so he bore this out in his own personal life. He fathered 5 children and put them all in orphanages. Okay. So this is one of the intellectual forerunners of where we are today. Now, in France, there was a reinvention of family law in the 1790s. Those ideas start to metastasize across the West, spread in the U.S. gradually, and those ideas develop and give rise to radical feminism.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Now big change happens, technological breakthrough in 1960, 1930 invention of latex, 1960 artificial contraception, and you have the decoupling of sex from marriage.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that on a practical level allows for the decoupling of marriage from parenting and parenting from partnering.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So the ideas that had been on the shelf and grew in the academy were limited and constrained by reality. Now, the technological innovations allow those ideas to explode out onto the scene in a way that it never could before.
Sure.
Right. And so in other, today, a lot of radical thinking, oftentimes, whether it's Marx or Engels or other thinkers on the, thinkers on the left, see the family as an obstacle to their philosophical worldview and their philosophical ends. So that's kind of a super crash course on, I think, maybe
it doesn't meet their agenda.
Right.
Yeah.
And look, the family, when the family is healthy, the family has a level of sovereignty, right? Abraham Kuyper uses the expression sphere sovereignty, the idea that God has created society in such a way that there's different spheres of sovereignty. And one of them is the family. There's 3 original institutions that God created: the family, the church, and the state, really. And in different ways, there's different locuses of human organization. And each of those, whether it's the school board or your local HOA, they all have different authorities. And when the family's functioning properly, it protects its own, helps to raise effective and good citizens with good, robust human capital, and is a check on the sovereign. Essentially, it's a form of a check where when families fail, the state grows, and in a lot of ways that happens bilaterally, right? So it goes both ways. So the state also does create from time to time incentives to replace the family, right? Where dad may not be, having a provider isn't always necessary, and so in different ways, our policymakers, either intentionally at times, accidentally at other times, motivated by good intentions, have done things that diminish the formation of new families,
Yeah.
and the maintenance of an ongoing family, right? Just from a couple stats to keep in mind. If you go right now today, there are 31% less people getting married now than in the year 2000 and 65% less than in 1970.
Wow.
Right? We've never had a time in our history where there's more unmarried adults.
Yeah.
And if we think just one second order consequence.
Yeah.
Right? Crime.
Yeah.
Right? The share of married households are the biggest predictor of the level of safety and crime in a particular community.
Yeah.
Right? So the old expression is, marriage civilizes men.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know Mrs. Gance agrees with that. And so if that's true, then there's never been a time in our history where there's more uncivilized men walking the streets of our communities.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, you've seen clearly the stats tell you exactly the theme that has happened and where we have come. Is this something that you feel like is going to continue to trend that direction? Or do you see any hope and any swivel?
Yes. Okay. So,
you've
term progressive.
You've got Charlie Kirk. Go get married young. Go find a wife.
Yes.
I mean, do you feel like that influence is there?
I think history does not move linearly; it moves cyclically. Mm-hmm. That's any good student of history knows. There's rises and falls of societies and civilizations. There's arcs.
Yep.
Not a singular arc, but there's an ongoing arc of history.
Yes.
And so, look, as a Christian, we have hope. It's a theological virtue.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean we have to be optimists. That said, I am still optimistic because God has hardwired us for relationship. God has hardwired us for marriage. It's literally it's crazy this has to even be said, but men and women are biologically created to fit together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We are in some way not fully complete without.
It's not good for man to be alone.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And look, there are great. Not everyone's called to the married life. The Apostle Paul is the best example of the single Christian. Okay, and as is said in the scriptures, that celibacy for the sake of the kingdom. That's certainly a thing. That's certainly a good.
Mm-hmm.
But the norm is the married life because it points. It's God's covenantal sign of salvation.
Yeah.
He wired it. It's a gift to all of humanity. At the beginning of salvation history, all of salvation history points to the eschatological wedding feast of the Lamb. And it's saturated. The nuptial meaning of Scripture is throughout it, from the minor to the major prophets, from Hosea to Isaiah, and you see it in Ephesians 5, where Paul lays out that great mystery, right? And when God knew that, he's the author of human life, and so when he created human love to be when it's well lived, it's sacrificial.
Yeah, that's right.
Being subject, as Ephesians 5:21 says, to be subject to one another out of reverence for Christ. And so that sacrificial love for one another images, it is an icon of Christ's love for his church.
Yeah.
And so when we think about, Charlie Kirk, and I think over the last year of his life, he became much more dialed in to the enduring things, the important things. I'm not saying he wasn't committed before, but his public talking on it was really great.
Yeah.
And I think we're seeing, with high engagements of young people are getting to church. Those who go to church are going to church more frequently than older generations. It doesn't mean there are more young people in church. Statistically, some people misunderstand the data, but those young people who are going have greater levels of zeal. That's what the data shows. Yeah. And that's men are becoming more, young men are engaging at levels that historically have only been seen amongst young women. So that's also very encouraging. And our churches are anecdotally seeing higher numbers of new members and folks getting baptized and entering their membership than in past years. So I think I think those are all the seeds for something that can be a renewal and a revival. Objectively, I always say we're at the if we're at the signs of a revival, we're not yet at a revival.
Okay.
The most encouraging sign is that Pew, which measures religious non-affiliation and has done so for many decades, showed consistent growth for about 40 years. Every time they came out with a new measure of it, it jumped up 2-3%, 4%. The last 4 years, it has held flat.
Wow.
That's a significant change.
Yeah.
Right? From the trajectory has been meteoric.
Right.
It's hit about the 28% of all Americans threshold.
Yeah.
And when you peel out the religious nuns, it doesn't mean they're atheists. It just means they don't identify with any religion whatsoever. And once you uncover it, there's a lot of openness amongst the nuns, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so it gives the local church there's an opportunity, because we've exhausted. I think what we're seeing is the exhaustion of what postmodernity has sold us. That we've been told that life is meaningless. It's just a bunch of abstract raw material. Go make your own purpose.
You're an accident.
Right. And define your own purpose. And they say, even optimistically, the existentialists would have said, hey, go out and you can be whatever you want and do anything you want.
Right.
Including a guy becoming a girl or a girl becoming a guy or whatever.
Yeah.
It's led people to a level of recognizing the meaninglessness of where they are.
Yeah.
We're seeing a rise in mental health crises, the suicide epidemic. All of these things are the fruits of it. I think you're starting to see this shift back to a more mimetic approach to life, with a purpose-driven life that is found external to ourselves. Yeah. And that's found in typically, it would be found in that hero's journey of going off, a woman finding a husband finding a wife, and forming a family, and this is why a man leaves his father and mother and cleaves to his wife. His story as old as time, and then going off sacrificially on an adventure and finding deep meaning and purpose in that. I think that calls to us, but there's a lot of work that we need to do if we're going to succeed in helping our young people live that out, because there's a lot of cultural headwinds.
From our very first days, America has been driven by the idea that hard work could lead us to the life we always envisioned. And today, honoring that legacy, College of the Ozarks does more than just provide an education. We're reawakening the American spirit.
When I thought about college, I knew that I wanted to do something that I was ambitious. C of O opened my eyes to the opportunities that were out there for me.
Our model of providing a Christian liberal arts education to those facing economic hardship hasn't wavered since 1906. Our students graduate debt-free through our work education program. They learn how to live a life guided by their faith. And as they begin their careers, they've learned how to take their seat at the table of influence and open the door of opportunity for others.
Being an assistant principal has allowed me to pour into kids the way that people have poured into me, and open up doors and opportunities to things that they didn't know were possible.
We're reawakening the American spirit in the next generation. Will you join us?
Wow. Wow, that's good. That's good. So I want to back up for a little bit and talk about the kind of the sovereignty structure that you mentioned. You kind of said when a family's operating correctly, it kind of self-preserves or self-protects.
Yeah.
And I think what's hard for, especially kind of your more women's lib view or whatever, if you have not experienced that true form, the Godhead, the husband head, if you will, the wife submitting, the children underneath that, if you have not experienced that in a beautiful way, I mean, we started off the conversation with the abusive story. And so that's, the opposite.
Right.
And that submissive never is abusive.
No, Christ is never doing that to his church.
Never. And so when you really fully experience God as the head of your family, and that unity, the triune of husband, wife, and the Godhead, everything underneath, your children have more peace, your marriage is more peaceful. You don't necessarily have unified every idea. I mean, we were talking off the record of things, you don't agree with, but you're going to be able to come together in a different way. And I think our culture never tells that story.
Yeah.
And so we don't, from the masses, don't realize what you're missing when you actually have that function properly.
Yes. And sometimes you get pushback. Christians get pushback. Say, you just want the 1950s to come back, or you want to go back to some
exactly.
throwback. No, as a Christian, we know that on this side of the eschaton, every person and every period is a work in progress.
Yeah.
And always can be and should be improved upon.
Yeah.
So that's the nature of the spiritual life.
Yeah.
And so there are certainly great goods that existed in the 1950s. There's great goods that exist today. What we want to do is always improve upon wherever we're at.
Yeah.
And Christ gives us the ideal example of his sacrificial love for the church, right? And when you unpack, folks who read today Ephesians 5, they either get really offended by what Paul directs to women, and back gets up. I want to put a double click on it though, because in the ancient world, we don't fully grasp how revolutionary Paul's theology was. It's a theology of complementarity.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're equal in dignity before God. Okay. We're complementary. We're not the same. And anybody who just grasps the basics of human anatomy knows we're not the same.
Right.
So we don't need to pretend that we're the same.
Right.
God has given us a complementary role where we ought to, in a healthy way, depend upon each other.
Yeah.
Right. And within Christ's example of his sacrificial love for his bride, there's a great icon for men to be able to live that out well. And there's a great icon for women to live this love out as well. A huge thing I think that's a challenge in Christian circles sometimes is that when we think about this, we engage in the dialectic, kind of reacting to the culture, where there's sort of a normative feminist dialectic where we kind of dump on men.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then pastors engage in that way, in a winsome way, to then also dump on men.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the reality is, we're going to get out of this. None of us are getting out of this alive, but none of us are. The way that we get out of this is through a re-embrace of complementarity.
Yeah.
That we need each other. We have to get away from the adversarial dialectic between men and women, and we have to be willing to name it and point it out on each side, because it exists on both sides, whether it's Andrew Tate or feminist ideology, right? There's challenges on both sides. Yeah. One of the most alarming stats recently that came out from Pew is the sea change in how young women are thinking about marriage. Okay, this is very recent data that you had a over 20-point reduction in when asked the question of something to the effect of do you aspire to and how important is marriage in your life? Yeah. There was we're going from about an 80% to about a 60% of high school graduating senior girls saying that it's a priority. Whereas young men, it stayed almost the same over the last 30 years.
Yeah.
And so that's an example of where our young women are hearing the words of the world, being discipled by the culture on that marriage is a bad idea. Yeah. Parents accidentally reinforce it. I was just speaking to a group of mostly Christian Ivy League college students in DC recently. And I asked them, how many of you heard from a family member that, now's the time to buckle down, get serious about your school, get a great degree, get maybe an advanced degree, get a career, get your career going.
Right.
Okay. Get settled.
Yeah.
Then look around.
Right.
For a spouse.
Yeah.
And about close to 70% of the room raised their hands. Yeah. And these are generally the elite who should hold our general worldview.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the reality is that decision delays marriage and increasingly makes it likely that you never marry. And I shared with them, look, I'm not telling you need to marry someone you meet in college.
Yeah.
But I am telling you, you ought not to go into college with the decision that you will not marry anybody that you meet in college.
Yeah. The 5-year
Okay?
plan, the 10-year plan.
No, you
they
just,
lock that in.
there's never a time in your life where you'll meet you'll be around more young people your age who you can find who share your values, who you will have the time to actually date.
Yeah.
As busy as you think you are with your 15 credit hours and studying really hard, it gets a lot more real when you get out on the other side of, when you're collecting a paycheck
That's right.
and you're trying to make partner. It'll be a lot harder to date. They'll be surrounded by a lot less people your age.
Yeah.
And then we get funneled into, say, a dating app culture.
Sure.
And this is not a moral judgment on dating apps in the sense of like, not inherently, there are problematic dating apps morally, but there are dating apps that aren't.
Yeah.
Christian dating apps.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, they're all problematic because they all make a consumer good out of relationships and create a feeling of optionality that's always there. There's always you swipe another time, and it reduces commitment.
Yeah.
So as you've seen an explosive growth of people meeting online, the amount of marriage keeps getting less and less because we're sort of imagining that there's this perfect person out there.
Yeah.
And the reality is none of us are perfect.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of good and great marriages that can exist if we don't think that there's something perfect out there.
Yeah. No, wow. That's good. That's good. My husband and I are coming up on 18 years, I think. I think that's right. I hope that's right. 18
We'll
years.
fact check it.
Yeah, we'll fact check it later. You can edit this, right? 18 years. And man, there's been so many times that it's very clear to me he's very not perfect, and very clear to him that I am very not perfect.
Yeah.
And it is something that without putting God as the center, that every marriage is always going to fail. At some capacity, something is going to happen if we don't have God at the center. I mean, there's crazy situations where they get through life and they're married 50 years without the Lord, but it's a sad thing knowing maybe the striving that had to go through, or the sacrifice of maybe setting their own needs aside and not fully coming together and in perfect unity with that. And so,
and just reflect on one dimension of why that, what can fit, how the Christian life can influence the health of our marriages, right? In the Christian walk, a big part of a spiritually healthy Christian is cultivating gratitude, right? We're grateful for all the blessings in our life.
Yeah.
We're grateful, we spend time in prayer, hopefully at the end of each day, and we reflect on all the goods that have occurred, and even learning spiritually to be grateful for the challenges and for the setbacks and the hardships and the suffering, that these are all, God also can use these and uses these for great good. Well, think about that in our own marriage, right? A huge skill that there's an area of marriage and relationship education. It's an academic secular field, would say like one of the keys to successful marriages is the skill, intrapersonal skill, an inward skill of appreciation. Okay. And if I cultivate that appreciation of my spouse, right? Taking a moment instead of immediately going, he didn't unload the dishwasher or didn't get that into the washing machine, or didn't pick up, his socks, or vice versa, stuff that a woman might do. Okay. If that is seasoned daily with like the things that I reflect on that I'm so grateful for in my wife, in my husband. I'm so glad he got, he's working hard to contribute to the family. I'm grateful that he grabbed that, he picked up the kids from after practice when I couldn't, or I did,
right. Sure. Sure.
But that is an example of a skill that the Christian walk naturally reinforces. And so people that don't have the gospel don't practice gratitude in the same way, right? And it can have a spillover. And actually, it's also a singular example of how good ministry around marriage can take someone who's not fully on board yet with the gospel, okay, and maybe a new Christian or not yet a Christian, and by cultivating these skills, you can start to point people to the gospel, right? So that they start to cultivate this skill of appreciation and realize that this is good because it's pointing to something greater.
Yeah.
And so, anyways.
No, that's amazing. I think I read that you share kind of the same idea as Mia, the importance around the family table. Let's talk on that for a second.
Yes. Yeah. Family, mealtime is the most important time for us as a family. And I grew up with it. You could get in trouble for a lot of things, but if you missed dinner as a kid, that was you might as well have robbed a bank. I mean, that was the worst thing you could possibly do. So we've tried to make a culture of always having family dinners, but knowing that there's seasons of the year, quite literally, where there's basketball practice and, football practice and what have you. And it's not always easy. And so there's times where it doesn't happen 7 days a week because of this and that. But whenever it can happen, it always happens. And so, and the cool thing about that is some of our newest research is reinforcing why this is so important.
Oh, yeah.
So we...
it's not a new concept.
No.
Come to find out.
No.
Gather around the table. Break bread together. I mean,
No, totally. And this is how we can have it's a, using the modern expression of platform. It's a great platform to disciple your children. Yeah. And it's also a great platform to reinforce not the child-led home, but the marriage-led home.
Yeah.
So husband and wife can actually engage in conversation together in front of the kids, and then also engage in conversation with the kids. There's on our website, it's free to download. There's a pastor's guide based on some new research we co-authored with a group of scholars at Harvard University.
Okay.
And it's the guide is intended to help parents pass on the Christian faith to their kids.
Yeah.
And so we had the survey instrument that we were able to borrow from the Harvard team from the Global Flourishing Survey that asked an adult in church about their childhood and about their parenting. Okay. And about themselves. So in a certain sense, it was a snapshot on 3 generations, right? Their parents, themselves, and their kids.
Yeah.
And we're trying to understand influences on faith practice. And one of the biggest ones that we found was having frequent open conversations with your kids that encourage their Christian faith. Yeah. That is sort of like a superpower behavior.
Yeah.
And it's a superpower behavior that a single parent, married parent, a grandparent can engage in.
Yeah.
And,
so good.
And you can start doing it today.
Yeah.
And there's fun ways you can do it.
Yeah.
I've been practicing, having, co-written the research, I've tried to put it to practice in my own family. And, you ask questions, and you don't need to be a theologian. If your kids have Sunday school, just ask them after, what were some of the things that you did in Sunday school?
Sure.
It can be as simple as that.
Yeah.
Ask them about it.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think about the sermon today?
Yeah.
Right. That can be a simple thing if you're bringing them to church.
So wait, you're saying this novel idea to actually communicate with your kids.
It's crazy. It is
have
wild.
An influence and involvement in their life.
Yes. Exactly.
This is crazy.
It is wild.
You heard it.
Let me get back to my Twitter feed. Anyways, no, but yes, that's right. So one of the ones I've started to ask as just trying to be creative. I asked my kids, if you could go back in time and be there for one biblical event, like you could see it, what would you? And I'll ask them a different. So I was in the car with my 10-year-old sons and my 6-year-old daughter, and I asked them, and the 13-year-old said, "Oh man, I want to be there for David and Goliath. That's great. Like I'd love to see that David just take that guy out."
That's a good one.
And we were talking about it for a little bit, and then my 10-year-old says, "I'd want to be there. I'd want to be there at the storm. I'd want to see Jesus walk on the water.
Oh, wow.
I want to see.
Wow.
I want to see that." We talk about that for a few minutes, and then my 6-year-old says, "Yeah, I want to be there for Cain and Abel." I go, "Wait, what?" It's like, "Yeah, like I want to go to Cain and go, 'Why did you do that? What's wrong with you?' And then I would slap him." So that's fun. It leads to, there's different ways you can have, you don't have to have, you don't need to be a theologian. You can have these conversations. You can have fun with them. Yeah. And then, as when they grow up, they're going to remember this. And what it shows is in our research, if you have these conversations weekly, and by the way, nothing else in the survey had this kind of replicability. Mm-hmm. If you said you had it doing this weekly, you're 2.5 times higher odds of doing that weekly with your own kids than all other churchgoers. Then if you reported doing it daily, it was nearly 8 times higher odds of doing that same thing with your kids than all other churchgoers.
Wow.
So, and it's this kind of simple discipleship where the faith is actually truly shared, right?
Yeah.
Where it helps our kids to be able to be formed in it and choose to follow Jesus as they grow up.
Yeah. That's incredible. That's such a good reminder. It's such a tangible, easy thing that you guys can do right now. So I really appreciate that.
The guide has some prompts too in it. So we suggest some ways for parents to be able to have these conversations.
That's great. Spoon-fed. That's even better. That's really awesome. Before we lose time, I want to make sure we talk about your latest book.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Endgame, the church's strategic move to save faith and family in America.
I love that.
And it's for pastors. It's for anybody who's very involved in their church. Okay. Because the church is a solution to the marriage crisis, the family crisis.
Yeah.
Has 3 parts. First part makes the case that religious non-affiliation and the rise of that is all wrapped up in the decline of marriage, and the decline of the married family has caused it. And there's lots of good data on that. And then how Christianity spread was through our revolutionary treatment of women and marriage. Women and men had equal dignity in the Christian world, where that didn't exist in the ancient world. Women flocked to it. Christian marriage changed the world. Okay. And so then it goes, okay, it's breaking down. Why? We go into the decoupling, and the second section goes into what does a healthy relationship look like, for parents, kids. And then the last section of the book is, okay, what can the church do about it? What does a world-class ministry around relationships that encourage marriage and for marriage look like in the local church?
Yeah. That's great. All right. Where can everyone find you?
Communio.org, COMMUNIO.org. You can buy our book, that book, Endgame there. You can download the pastor's guide that I referenced there for free. And you can follow me on X at JP and you can sign up for a free newsletter.
Oh, that's wonderful. Guys, check out his stuff. I'm going to have everything in the show notes, make it easy on you. So, man, it was such a pleasure having you.
Great to meet you, Hannah.
Thanks
for doing this.
Being in the treehouse in Nashville.
Yes, that's great. Love it. Thank you.
If today's conversation stirred something in you, if you're craving a little more quiet, a little more presence, and a little more Jesus in the everyday, I want to invite you to grab the Wanderer's Field Guide. It's a 4-week journey of seeking, gathering, harvesting, and abiding in His presence. Just 1 page a day, 1 prayer at a time. It's not about perfection. It's about coming home to Him. You can order yours at thetreehousestoryteller.com.
Wait, before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and follow us on Facebook or Instagram at The Treehouse Storyteller so we can stay connected. Head on over to thetreehousestoryteller.com for more products, artwork, photography, and encouragement. See you next time.